We are live.
Looks like it from my end.
Live with Joshua on Twitter, Facebook. Oh, awesome. Okay, we're live. Beautiful. All right. Live with Joshua Lisec, or is it Lisec?
Depending on who you ask.
He's a #1 best-selling ghostwriter for big shot gurus. The only name I recognize is Bushra Azhar, and I know her from our time in one of Ramit Sethi's programs called Zero to Launch,
which I was in as well 6 years ago.
Right.
7 years ago now.
Small world, beautiful. But yeah, that's what actually sort of like piqued my interest. Other than the fact that Scott Adams shouted you out and Ed Lattimore shouted you out as well. I was like, oh, Bushra let him ghostwrite the book as well. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Ghostwriting, it's a great gig. It's basically every form, as you would know. It's every form of editing packaged together, plus coming up with the words that the clients would have needed to say, but they didn't necessarily say themselves.
Right, exactly. Now, who's interviewing who? Am I interviewing you, or are you interviewing me? Or are we just like talking shit?
I think it's a kind of a back and forth discussion. I want to bring up how I first learned about you and began following you. There was some tiff hullabaloo, whatever you want to call it, over in a Facebook group. Probably 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. You ruffled some feathers, and I thought, wow, this guy's pretty cool. So I started following you. I follow you on Facebook, followed you on Twitter, and I consistently check out your stuff. You retweet me here and there. I remember you've billed yourself as the most expensive copywriter in Dubai. You have this book you've been working on called Dragon Energy: The Tao of Personal Branding, which I believe I've read all the chapters of it you've posted online. Consistently wondering, when is he going to finish this thing? So I'm curious, what to you, Nabeel, is the relationship between personal branding and copywriting? Because that's multiple talents in your talent stack, to borrow Scott Adams' language.
Absolutely, and I'm going to answer that, but I just wanted to touch on a couple of the points that you mentioned, because I remember, I think I know exactly which hullabaloo you're talking about. That was in the Copywriter Club Facebook group. I can't remember, what did I say. It must have been something very politically incorrect. And
it was, yes.
And I subsequently got removed from the group, and then let in. Like I had finished my timeout. Maybe you didn't see this, but I had finished my timeout, and I was about to get let in again. This was like just after I had done my podcast interview in the Copywriter Club podcast with Kira and Rob, and then like people like lost their shit in the group again, because, oh my god, how can you interview this guy? Why are you giving him a platform? And then somebody posted something, and then I screenshot that post and I posted it on my profile. I was like, and I edited out the person's like face and name, so it was like totally anonymized, right? And I was like, oh, it looks like I'm going to make a grand entrance. I can't remember what I said, but then the forum owners, Kira and Rob, they didn't too much appreciate that. And then I was subsequently removed from the group again. And then I think they actually made a rule in the group that's like, no screenshotting and sharing in your like on your social feeds or even in your email list, which is, I mean, I don't know, like, okay, it's their group, they can do whatever they want, but like, I mean, come on, it's like, that's a bit like extreme, if I do say so myself. That's point number one. Point number two, the reason why it's taking me so long to finish my book is I was going to finish it like probably like maybe I was trying to finish it like 6 months ago. And the reason why it's taking me so long and I haven't finished it is because like I found out about you, and I started reading some of or listening to some of the stuff that you put out, and reading some of the stuff that you put out about the kind of crappy books that your clients come to you with. I was like, oh shit, maybe I better, maybe I better like look at this a bit more closely and try to make sure it's not like at least the manuscript is like Joshua worthy, because I don't want to publish crap.
Yeah, I see that a lot where they, oh, I just got to get a book out there. A book is the new business card. Of course, what do people do with business cards? They throw them in the trash.
Yeah.
Not necessarily association that you want there. But to touch on your point, Nabeel, about the Facebook group shenanigans, you are the first like writing professional that I saw get canceled, so to speak, from an entire, not necessarily entire social media platform, but from a massive group. I mean, Copywriter Club is quite a hefty little group there on Facebook, and so I've kind of began watching you. Like, let's see, how does he go from here? How does he proceed from here? And the fact that you were willing to dish out your perspective, in as much as it got you, removed from that group, that told me that this is a person who's authentic and I can trust what they have to say. Versus someone who's, oh, I'm going to follow the rules, I'm going to, color within the lines, so to speak. That's not necessarily someone who's going to go all out for their clients. They're not necessarily someone who's going to risk like an investor would. So you came across me as somebody who has that mindset, that perspective of playing it risky, because when you have a big risk, there's potential for big reward. And guess what? That's how it came about that I began following you, is because you got in trouble over there. So it worked. It worked. And every time I see Copywriter Club on Facebook, it's like, oh yeah, it's that guy who got canceled. And that's how I came to follow you. And I had something similar happen with me. There was somebody on Twitter who falsely accused me of promoting under one of his tweets. And several people reached out to me after he screenshotted me and made fun of me, all this other stuff. Oh yeah, that reminded me, I needed to buy your course, Joshua. Ha ha ha. So getting canceled, so to speak, it can have its upsides.
Yeah. So and then to touch on your to actually like get on and answer your question about the personal branding and copywriting. I try to be the same person I am online as I am offline,
Okay.
or vice versa. And what I've noticed is that, especially with these kinds of copywriting groups or like the copywriting community, I call it fraternity, but that would be sexist, even though calling it a fraternity would be gender neutral in this context. But the copywriting community is all about, like, especially groups like this, they're all about, or they're a lot about referring each other work and shit like that, right? Mm-hmm. And because of that perception that I need to play nice with all the other copywriters, so because they might bring me business down the line. Like, some copywriters have reached out to me talking about potential opportunities that they might refer work and things like that. There's only one copywriter that has actually referred me work consistently, potential clients. His name is Brian Sporiello or something. I can't. Oh man, I wish I could remember his last name. It's like a very extreme Italian name. But he's a good guy. I reached out to him cold, actually, and that's besides the point. But the thing is that everybody's trying to play nice with each other, and because of that, it's kind of fake. And because it's kind of fake, then whoever plays outside, those lines, you're not in the club anymore, so to speak. And there have been a number of people who have been removed from that copywriting, the Copywriter Club group, who didn't play, within this neat little box that that the copywriters expect. And I mean, to be honest, it hasn't affected my business at all. In fact, my business has only grown after, not being a part of that group. So, I mean, it's all good at the end of the day. And ultimately, with personal branding, especially if you're a freelance copywriter, that's like all it is at the end of the day. Unless you start your own company, like a mini agency, or you create your own offer that's its own brand, like you're a personal brand at the end of the day. And then personal branding, it really depends on, like, what your risk appetite is. Now, like I'm highly, um, I take a lot of risks. That might not be your personality. Like if it's not your personality, don't take a lot of risks. If you're a risk averse person and you'd rather play it straight online and play it safe online, it's totally okay. There's a lot of people that you know have built really good personal brands that do it that way. Me, I'm the opposite. So it's like as long as you're being like real, like an actual authentic person, and this is besides the buzzword of being authentic. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about the buzzword. People love to use the buzzword of being authentic and the buzzword of, you know, as a polarizing individual, I blah blah blah, when the reality is they are about as spicy as unseasoned white rice. And there are so many people who claim that they're polarizing and authentic when really it's they're not. It's just like a character that they play online.
Right, right. And it's so interesting ghostwriting for those people, because I see that a lot with those who have a public profile and they're terrified of getting canceled. Those tend to be the people who are the most fake, the least authentic in their personal brand. But they don't want to be found out, so to speak. And of course, you know, the great irony is in real life they're very, very different. Like, okay, let's say a good example is someone who I tweeted about this past week. Hollywood actress, of course, now the gender neutral term is actor using for everyone. But her public persona is she's a very masculine lesbian woman. That's her public persona. Real life, without the makeup, a girly girl, and at least bisexual, if not heterosexual, from our conversations. And when she talked about her coming out experience, it was about becoming relevant again. How do I get my name back in the headlines? Oh, I know, I could come out as lesbian. Was her pitch, and a completely different persona in real life as opposed to online, which is not surprising. Because when you think about incentives and what gets rewarded online, authenticity to a lot of people who are looking to grift is not rewarded. If you look authentic, if you look like you're being true to yourself, that can be rewarded. And then, of course, what happens is you must protect at all costs the truth coming out. So I've noticed that before, and so I've tended to shy away from those who are very different behind the scenes than they are in real life. Basically, if you are being real, if you risk being offensive, if you're willing to risk not to be offensive to be offensive, but if you're willing to tell your opinion, even if it goes against what the leaders of your industry say, that's what I look for now is clients, authors, course creators, experts, founders, executives who are willing to go against the advice of their own mentors or the advice of people they once looked up to, or the advice of the household name of their industry. Like Bushra, for example, when everybody was saying you have to create a $2,500 course, out she comes with something for $7. When everyone says you have to build an email list, she says, screw that. Get a Facebook pixel on your website. Retarget all your visitors, right? And that's a sort of against the grain, upstream, I guess you could say, advice that I like to look for in clients. And so I try to do that with my own personal brand. I want to be known as the guy who is the anti-marketer. You know, marketers are very much known for being all smoke and mirrors or engagement and likes as opposed to sales. You know, so when someone thinks about the work that I do, getting back to your personal branding story you're briefly sharing there, because branding is what other people have to say about you, right? I want people to see me as, okay, he's the guy who writes stuff that makes money, and that's the branding that I'm going for. That first, ghostwriting second. So when you think about building your own personal brand, Nabeel, what is it that you want to be known for?
I want to be known as someone who is truthful and someone who has integrity, and that's basically it. Because a lot of what I do, even though I'm not the most observant Muslim, a lot of what I do, especially in how I do my business with my clients and how I write my copy is tied to my faith. And for example, you know what an offer stack is, right? How they
Yes.
do, yeah. So like, just for the people who don't know, who might be listening, an offer stack is like, okay, this is the price. Oh, but that's not all. You get this, which is valued at $9 million, but you only get it for like, it's free for you today. And then that's not all. You get this, which is like, I've sold it before for $50,000, but it's free for you right now, and so on and so on, to increase the perceived value of the offer, so that that 997 or whatever the price is of the product seems minuscule in comparison. I can't do that. It's like literally haram for me to do that, because you're saying the price is $9 million, like the value is $9 million. So why are you giving it to me away for free? So I can't do that. I have to use other ways that are like that. I have to sort of work around it. Like if I'm doing a value stack, I would never include that valued at X, free today, and I'll put the number and then cross it out or whatever. I'll never do that. I'll find other ways to convey the value of those bonuses that are, what I would consider more ethical. So that's just one example. And I also try to do it in the way that, like, I'm more than happy to disagree and push back against my clients. Like if I think something is like wrong, I'm gonna say so. And that's gotten me into like trouble once or twice with clients. And also I like to be somebody with my client who's like, I'm going to like take action in the best interest of the client, and then I would rather ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. So there's been so many situations where I've written something or posted something or sent something out that the clients didn't agree with, that at the time I believe was something that would be good for their audience to read. A very recent example was you're a ghostwriter for the books. I'm a ghostwriter for like their social media or whatever. So I wrote a very long post that I felt like would endear my client to his audience, that involved a lot of stuff from his childhood and some business stuff that he went through during his journey. And it was like super long, very detailed, a lot of emotional triggers and stuff like that. And my client, he deleted the post. He said, no, I don't want to talk about this kind of stuff with my audience. I feel like it's not within my brand. When I talked to him about it afterwards, though, he was like, I took that post down, but even though I took it down, I got really great feedback off of that post. Like for the few minutes or whatever, or hour or whatever that it was up, like I got a lot of DMs from people talking about how this was resonating, and comments and things like that. So like I was right, but I was wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that willingness to take risks and say what needs to be said, I found in my experience that will endear me to a client, because it's like, wow, I come across a lot bolder when you're writing for me, Joshua, because I don't pull back, and it's like, oh, I can't say that. Well, when you read someone else using your words saying that, there's emotional detachment, and at least I've noticed with not every client, but I see that often. There was a question someone had, Nabeel, about author voice, client voice. How do you mimic or recreate authentically someone's writing style? And the person, I guess, was directing that question to both of us. So when you're writing a story, personal story for someone, that it gets posted on their social media, or a sales letter, or maybe a marketing email, a newsletter, where they're sharing a story of theirs, how do you ensure that no one can tell they had a copywriter?
Right. So I have a sort of like a contrarian view about this, and then really I wanted to grill you about how you do it, because maybe I'll get better for my own writing, because you have so much more experience ghostwriting than I do. So my thing is, I don't believe that an author voice exists. I believe that they have like different facets of their lives, or different layers to who they are, and communicating each of those layers rather than just one thing at a time or one thing only makes the client or whoever you're writing for seem human. And seeming human is what we're going for. So because of that, it feels like to the client that I nail their voice or I get their voice, when really I'm not trying to do anything of the sort. It could be, I haven't actually formalized this or systematized this. It could be that I'm getting their voice intuitively, but I don't think so, because I'm not trying so hard to write in their voice. What I usually do is I interview my clients, or I'll have conversations with my clients, and those conversations make it into my copy. So they say something, cool sounding that I feel might be a good hook and a good angle, and they think nothing of it, but I include it in the copy. And because they're hearing their words or seeing their words in print or in the post or whatever, or hearing their words sent back to them, they feel like, oh, this guy gets my voice. When really it's more like an optical illusion rather than me being any skilled at writing in a voice. So like I wanted to flip the question back at you. Like, do you have a system or a process or a formalized way of, capturing your client's voice?
I do. It's when you say you don't believe author voice exists, I agree with that. I describe it as author mood, because depending on the mood of the author, the writer, the creator, the marketer, the founder, it's a very different style writing style. But it's still them. It's still them. For example, there's somebody I ghost email for, I guess you could say, and probably the previous month's worth of email newsletters that had gone out, they were carefully written. They were pulling of punches. They were measured, were cautious. And then the one that came out, okay, this is my last email, check it out, was uncensored, was direct, profanity laced, gloves were off. Like, okay. Very, very different writing style in both of them. One was long, flowing sentences. The other was short, choppy, IDGAF in this email. So if I was trying to recreate his authentic writing voice, author voice, which one do I use? Very different mood. And so rather than say, oh, it has to sound exactly like him in terms of voice, it's what is the mood that he's feeling? And then, and this is the key part for me as the ghostwriter, is using their words as much as possible. So in the same way, when you're interviewing someone and they're telling a great story, that, oh, I can use that line. I am basically like an indigenous hunter. I use as much of the animal as possible. When I'm having a conversation, I transcribe everything. And I go back to the transcript, and every time they're speaking, except for the uhs, the ums, or they ask me a question back, I use everything, one way or another, like literally every single word, as much as possible. The system I created for the best way to say it, where you start with the brain dump on your idea and then you restructure and refine it, that's how I ghostwrite. The brain dump is just coming from my client in the interview with him. It's all over the place. So I open up the brain dump and I look at, okay, what of what they said comes first in this, because I'm the expert. I know it has to come first inside of the introductory chapter, or at the top of the email, or at the beginning of their course. I do a lot of ghost courses now, ghost course creation, as you might say. And so what comes first? I know it has to come first. And so I'm looking for that hook, or at least the makings of a hook. And sometimes there's a lot of gaps. Imagine like they dump down a bunch of puzzle pieces in front of me, and I begin to put the puzzle together with the content, and a bunch of pieces are missing. So I have to come up with those. And of course, it needs to be ones that fit in with what they've said. So I will reuse turns of the phrase that I've seen in other pieces of copy that they've written, or if they have particular type of metaphor that they like to use, I'll use a metaphor like that. Or if there are stories or examples that they've shared recently on their social media, or that even came up in conversation, I will work in that as an example. So when the client reads it back, and this is what a lot of people tell me, actually most people tell me, Joshua, I can't even tell I work with a ghostwriter because it all felt like it was me. And I'm still, so I'm even a ghost to them. I'm even a ghost to them, which is the fun part about my job, is for the most part, they'll read it, they'll look at it, and okay, I'll tweak one word here, I'll add a sentence here. There's very little. So for you, Nabeel, when you are taking their words, using their words, something that they had said, how are you still ensuring that the rest of it feels like them, feels like their energy, so to speak?
I mean, that's interesting you asked that because I generally follow the exact same process that you do. For my retainer clients, we do 2 calls a month, so bi-weekly, and then it's just us chatting, getting ideas, what's going on in their life, what's going on in their business, me asking them questions to try to get ideas, and then I have the transcript done, like, with my software, with the software that I use, Descript, and then I just go through that, and then I find the ideas for the content. And exactly like you do, I go through and I look for what's the hook, what's the thing that goes first. It's exactly the same. I try to use as much of their words as possible, like the way they say it, the same stories that they use. If they have like catchphrases or aphorisms, I use those over and over again. Like for one of my clients, he's got a lot of you would call them aphorisms or catchphrases. So he's got one that's like sales over marketing. Okay, that's one of his aphorisms. And then he has another one that's like make the damn offer. So if I sparse those in across, however many posts, people will feel like it's, the client talking to them. And also, you said about the mood. Again, it's the same thing. Like, you have to vary the emotion that comes across. So there'll be sometimes posts that are more aggressive, sometimes posts that are like, calling out the prospect. Sometimes posts that are, more nurturing and inviting. Some posts that are more aspirational and motivational, like kind of like the kind of stuff that we see on money Twitter or self-improvement Twitter. And then you have to capture all of those emotions and the layers of the client, and then it seems like the perception is that I got their voice, but really I didn't get it. I'm just conveying as much of what I see of the client and putting it into words. So like some posts will be like talking about the client's wife or his girlfriend. Some posts will be talking about how he's going to the gym and looking after his health. Different aspects of his life. Because like if you have a client and you're doing social media content for him, you can't be talking about their offer like 30 days, 30 days of the month. You have to, sort of mix it up.
Gotcha. What do you find is the most common industry that you end up in, that you find most clients coming to you from? Is it like high ticket service providers, or is it marketers or salespeople who are selling products? Do you find a difference between some products and services?
I have had one e-commerce client that was selling a supplement, but they weren't a personal brand, so the writing style is a little bit different. Even though I tend to mimic the same style of writing across all, and we only did email for them. And the way I do email is slightly different to the way people do it in e-commerce. I follow the internet marketer / direct response approach of longer form emails with very little design, mostly text and things like that. But most of my clients have been in the like high ticket coach, high ticket consulting space. One of my clients, Mike Mark, he owns a sales consultancy, and they recruit and train sales reps for their clients. Another one of my clients is Joel Irway, who is they call him the webinar guy, but he's been in the internet marketing space for a while, and he teaches people how to create mini webinars and create high ticket offers off of their courses and programs that they were selling for low ticket before. So most of my clients are in that space, and we do have one agency client that we subcontract for, and that's all over the place. So whoever their clients are, mostly that's in B2B and education. So like we've written for like pretty much every niche there is at the moment. But our best clients are in the high ticket space because they have a high ticket offer, and because our rates are premium, it makes a lot of sense to work with somebody like that. Because from my side, I only need to convert like one or two from their audience every month to make sure that my client gets an ROI on our retainer, you
Yes.
know, and most of our clients see like 8 to 10x ROI on our retainer, even though it's a premium price.
Awesome. Rogue, it looks like Rogue Wealth, you asked the question, which of the software do you use for recording these conversations? I record it, usually meeting with them on Zoom, and then I take the recording and then pop it into Temi, is the digital transcription service that I use. This is sometimes it botches the language, sometimes not. One of the issues I notice with a lot of internet marketers is, especially those who offer a for hire or a service, right? I'll help you market your business. I'll create your copy. You go back to their website and it's a disaster, or their own copy. It's like, wow, they're an expert. Is the feeling you get. How do you balance maintaining your own business, your own offers, with being so focused on your clients' offers and their business, and making sure you've created everything for them that you're on board to create?
And I kind of feel like I might have a contrarian approach to this as well. I feel like if a copywriter's website is like too good, that means they have way too much time on their hands, which means they're not doing client work.
Fair enough.
So it's like, why is your website so good? Aren't you like working? You know what I'm saying? Or if they're always on social media posting, every single day, but obviously this is a misconception on my end. Like, as a copywriter, your number one client should be you and your business, right? So that's something that I have struggled with in the past, and I still do struggle with. A priority for this year for me is to make sure that all of the copy on our website is current and reflective of what we currently do right now. The problem is, like, I've gone through a lot of different like phases or whatever of like what I wanted Dropkick copy to be. Like, first I wanted to be, content marketing. Then I wanted it to be email marketing. Now I'm just going to go with a generic direct response copywriting, because that's sort of that's our niche, even though it's not a niche. Like, I'd rather stay general and figure out how to grow the business that way. But we'll only be doing copywriting. We won't be doing anything else. We wouldn't become a full service agency. So because of that, like, I've never been able to like sit down and, okay, what the hell is this website gonna say? You know what I'm saying? Now I kind of have a better idea of what I want it to say, so I'm gonna probably focus on that. And after that, I'll probably start, creating proper marketing assets, like a mini webinar or a mini VSL to promote the services that we offer. And I know I've seen your your Facebook ads all over the place after I went to your website and you pixeled me. So you seem like you're on point with that. Was that always the case, or like is this a recent thing?
No. So this 2021 marks 10 years in business for me, and I have gone through, I want to say 3, maybe 4 website redesigns since then. And I know some people are always like, they're regularly refreshing their stuff every few months, or adding a new page or whatever. Haven't really touched my website since 2018. So it's been a minute, and there's a lot of people who have been asking me, well, Joshua, how do I find this in your website? Where do I find that in your website? But those don't tend to be people who are going to hire me for my ghostwriting services. All of what I do online is really focused on the people who are ready. I'm ready for a ghostwriter, for my this, for my that, usually for their book or for help with their course creation. And so the Facebook the retargeting I do with Facebook tracking pixel, or the videos that I post on YouTube, or the sort of stuff that I tweet out there or repost on Facebook, for example, it's all focused on finding those people who are, what, I need a ghostwriter. Now that's not everybody. But then I realized, well, I can repackage my services as products, information products, and sell to people that way. So I've been obviously tweeting about my programs that I have, and then creating some YouTube content for that, tweeting about that, and creating blog posts about that. And so I've been seeing some, as they say, passive income from that digital real estate that that I own, so to speak, for those keywords. So that's been fun. And it's not been the most massive addition to my bottom line, but having that little income come in and like, oh wow, you made 7 sales today. I have no idea how or where they came from, That's great. That's great. When you begin to see that consistently, you get a taste for that. It's a little addicting.
And how long did it take you to create those products that you can sort of sell passively? Because I feel like yes, I would enjoy the additional streams of income, um, but I feel like the amount of time to create a really takes to create a really good product, like with the book, or even with a course. Like even though there are a lot of people just like creating shitty courses and putting them on Gumroad, like to create a quality course or book, it takes so much time and energy that it takes away from the main business, which like I don't want to be a course creator. Like I don't want to be a coach. Like I want to be a service provider and I want to grow my business that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like I would rather focus on that one thing and then get the squeeze the most out of that as possible before I move on to these other things. So I guess my question to you is like, did that take a lot of time for you to create those products that you can sell passively, or how did that go?
It didn't take as much time as I expected, and I think it's because I do it regularly for my own clients. Like the process for creating their course, of creating their book, it was just merely, okay, now I'm going to do it for myself. And I would have batches like, okay, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. today, and I'm going to record videos for 3 hours, for example. So getting those nice blocks of time where I'm able to just attack it, focus 100% on that, actually can get done pretty quickly. The best way to say it, my first one, I began that in June of 2020, and it was ready by the Independence Day weekend, the first weekend of July. At least the core content. I added a few things here or there over the subsequent months, but for the most part, it was basically a month. With the best way to tweet it, which I did with Ed Lattimore, that took us about 2 months, I believe. That was September and then October. And that's us meeting every other week or a couple of times a week here and there and getting things all set and all ready. And then the latest one that I did, Write This, Not That, 1 day. Because I basically, okay, what have I identified are, and I call them anti-persuasion mistakes that show up in writing. What are the most common ones? And so I listed them and handed it off to a designer to turn it into something nice, pulled it up, turn the camera on, go. And now it's done. Obviously still have to write the copy for it and create the course cover and put up a bunch of tweets about it and all that. So it's more than just one single day. But having done it so many times, you know what's necessary, what's a waste of time when creating an information product. So in my experience, it was a lot faster than I anticipated. None of this, working on it for 6 months or for a year sort of thing. And the reason why I wanted to begin kind of productizing or packaging my expertise as information products is because that's what I tell my clients to do. Because they come to me and they say, Joshua, I've got so much business. I've got a waiting list. I created this one masterclass. It sold really, really well. It was great to just show up and talk, and 100 people paid me $500 for it. I need more of this. I need more of this stuff. And they perceive that being the author of a book, perceive it accurately, that being known as the person who wrote the book on their industry is a massive amount of perceived authority, credibility, and expertise. So that's why they want to do that. And so they want to package their services as that. And it's because at any given time, only a small percentage of their potential audience or their potential clients rather are ready to work with them right now. But there's this massive other number, some estimates being 97% of a target market aren't ready to hire you for your high ticket services right now. Only 3% is, which is still a massive percentage that you want to be in front of. But that 97%, they might pay $9 for your ebook or $99 for your course, your masterclass. And what I've intentionally done is created clients out of the best way to say it. So at least half of my business in Q4 2020 and now in Q1 2021, half of my business are people who bought the best way to say it and said, okay, I really wanted to try it myself. I get it. I just don't have time for this. I watched the first couple of videos. Okay, this guy knows what he's doing. And so, hey, I'm the expert. So they hire me to do it. So I've begun creating courses now that I can sell a $9 Write This, Not That training to someone. And then they'll buy my $99 best way to say it. And then they'll hire me for a $2,500 session or consulting gig or something like that with their persuasion strategy, and then okay, do my book now. And so I've been able to been able to create multiple streams of income from just a single product. So those are my thoughts on that. Would you ever consider productizing your services?
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you conceptually that to have the additional ways that people could become indoctrinated to your way of doing things, and then have them pay you for it is also is definitely a good thing that you would want to do. And in fact, that's my client Joel Irway's model. Is like, you have your high ticket service. Okay, let's say you're a service provider. You have a high ticket service, which is like the highest level offering that you have. And then at the bottom, you have a course of that. So that's done, do it yourself. And then in the middle, you have a coaching program, which is done with you. And between the three, like, you're always selling the service, like the highest ticket offer. But then if they're not ready for the service, then you downsell them into the appropriate, tiered offering, so that, you're always trying to sell the highest ticket offer, but then you can still make sales if they're not ready for your main thing. So I guess that's something that I would probably have to work on, this year. And Elias is asking, should you write an info product before the book? And I responded in the chat that a book is an info product. But what do you think? Should you write the book first or create the course first?
Yeah. It's, in my experience, it's faster to create a course than it is a book. Because a course, for example, if you have an outline and you're an effective presenter, you just show up on camera in your outline, versus an engagement to author a book. When I'm helping someone author a book, anywhere from 5 to 10 months. Not that's always 5 months. The shortest turnaround I ever had on the book was 3 weeks. Don't really do that anymore, because that's like 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, or more in some cases. But if the goal is, I want to package my expertise in something I can begin selling to kind of even just test the waters a little bit, probably makes sense to start with a training, and just see, will people pay me for my knowledge, rather than say, okay, I don't know that yet. Now, there are plenty of people I've worked with that they have never authored a book before, but they know they need it because people have been asking them to write a book for 20 years. A lot of people. And they know that by having a book that they can sell for $19.99, all the marketing that they do for the book also markets their business, so long as the book is the productized version of their value that they deliver. Right. So if you have a services-based business, especially a high-ticket service, and you want to create clients for that, make the promise of the book similar to the promise you make your clients, with the outcomes that they can expect. So by marketing your book, people know you as the person who gets that outcome. And so rather than just try to, get on, it could be wise to try to get on podcasts too, and create a splash for yourself out there about your services. By being an author of this new book, you have become the news, and it's a great excuse for some free publicity out there. And so that's why a lot of the service providers and consultants and coaches and even executives for hire, advisors that I've worked with over the years, that's the one and only information product that they create is their book. Also, they mail it to potential client with a 8.5 by 11 letter, inviting them to book a conversation. They send 100 of those out a year. They get 10 clients. They're booked solid for 12 months. And a course doesn't do that. Yeah. You can't really mail a course like that with a hand signed letter.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's some advantages that a traditional like a book has over the online course. One reason why I wanted to write a book instead of creating a course was it was that aspect of it, to create like a calling card, and then it was also that, okay, everybody's creating a course, I don't want to create a course.
Yeah,
I just generally I for some reason, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm just generally a contrarian. And I didn't want to create an ebook. I wanted to create a physical book that's like super premium with the woven freaking paper and the leather binding, that kind of book I wanted to create. And then I still haven't finished writing the book, so I guess that's the first thing that I have to do. And the reason why I wanted to create the physical book is because I get their address and I can send them a rider, which is a sales letter that goes along with the package.
Yes.
And that's just generally how direct mail marketing works, especially if you have a front end customer who's already bought your thing. And then also, I didn't want to sell the book cheaply. I wanted to sell it for like a super premium price, like $99 or something like that. And if the book was like physical and of this like super high quality, like novel quality, then I would be justified in charging that amount. So while you're here, let me get some free consulting out of you, right? What's the in the books that you've written, like what's the optimal like length of the book?
General trade length is 40,000 to 75,000 words. It's quite a range, and that in print that can be anywhere from 150 to 400 pages, honestly, depending on how many graphics there are, or the formatting, spacing. If you have call out boxes, text boxes throughout the book, what's the typeface or the font size? That's typically what you see. I've recently begun working with clients on a much shorter version of their book I call it a hook book, because it's basically the hook for your business. The objective is take the top 5 to 7 objections to the sale that you get over and over and over, turn them into questions, make each of them a chapter, write it as a book, literally turn it into a book, not an ebook, but so it would be smaller size, like basically like a 5 by 8 inch rather than 6 by 9, which is the typical size. A 5 by 8 book, basically it could fit in their back pocket. 15,000, 20,000 words somewhere in there, so it feels substantial, but they could still finish it in a couple of sittings. And those are excellent for brick and mortar businesses, actually, people who offer a professional service like chiropractors or physical therapists or hypnotherapists, where they work privately with clients. And in that case, it's relatively cheap to print these books, and they actually can look pretty good because they're shorter, they're smaller. You don't have this massive, massive expense. And if you know publishing or work with someone who does know publishing, then it won't look like it's one of these free plus shipping things where the formatting is all screwed up and the paper is this cheap white color and the cover is all pixelated. It is kind of a mess. But I've been doing the hook book for a few people. It's cheaper, but it does get the job done for a market where your competition don't have books already. For example, if you become the first, let's say, chiropractor or physical therapist in your geography to be an author of a book that's actually good, congratulations, you're now the #1 expert in your geography on that subject matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds exactly right. And so when it's like 40 to 75,000 words, like 150 to 200 pages, like obviously the book kind of needs to be that long, because if you historically books have been physical and printed on paper and things like that. So like it needs to be kind of that length to like justify actually producing a book. Like for example, I couldn't write an 80-page book for Dragon Energy and then want to make it a leather bound, woven with like cloth insert or whatever. Like it would be like ridiculous. It's like this thin, and then it's got a leather cover on it, which is like as thick as the book itself. You know what I'm saying? So how much of those books are actual, like how much of those books are actually steak, and how much is just like, trimmings and like fluff and or whatever? Like I'm sure you don't let fluff into the books that you write, but in terms of just generally, when books are like 200 pages long, how much of that is padding and how much of that is the actual content?
Usually it's about 80 to 90% fluff. And the reason is, number one, people have been telling them they need to write a book, but then they went and wrote it themselves, and then they weren't actually sure what they were supposed to say. So they gave 5 examples for 1 point. And this is extremely common with feedback on bestsellers. Look at the 2-star reviews, the 3-star reviews. They'll just say, there was a lot of great stuff in here, but wow, the book didn't start till page 50. There's a bunch of stories I didn't care about. And unfortunately, you'll see a lot of New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestsellers make this mistake where the author was high profile, for one reason or another. Like a good example is Atul Gawande's Checklist Manifesto. That was an article he wrote for The Atlantic, the Checklist Manifesto. And it was, what, 5,000 words, I think? That's all that needed to be said on that topic to get the point across, to get it. But because it went viral, book deal came along. Can you turn this 5,000 word article into a, what, like 35 or 40,000 word book, please? So we can sell it and make money off of you? Was basically the pitch. And it is a lot with traditional publishers, is the perspective is, how can we leverage the credibility of traditional publishing, that are kind of a legacy publishing, you might call it. How can we leverage our credibility to make as much money off of breakout stars and rising stars as possible? That's usually what the traditional publisher's perspective is, because it's in the incentives. It's not about motivation. I'm not impugning their motives. That's just what it is. They want people who are going to market the books for them. So they don't have to. They don't have to do that, you know? And that's why I have a few authors who have had the opportunity. They've had a book deal offered to them, and they said no, because they realized that even though if it's traditionally published, it's still them doing all the marketing, but not getting any of the royalties until they've earned back the advance. Well, why not just do a pre-release, pre-order thing for the book? Create their own advance. Exactly. You know, think about that. Create your own advance, and you keep all the royalties from all the effort that you're doing. If your platform is already big enough, already broad enough. Go back to your question, how to fix the fluff problem. It's usually because the topic isn't broad enough. If you exhaust the possibilities on the topic, well, you need a bigger topic. By bigger, I mean a broader topic. For example, if it's, you know, just direct response copywriting for email marketing, if you have 50,000 words to say about that, say 50,000 words. But if you come up with 10,000 words worth of stuff that you're really proud of, well, let's look at direct response copywriting in other domains, or target, you know, to talk about maybe some of the most common industries you've seen, mistakes people make. That can be an entire chapter. Most common mistakes you see, even professional direct response copywriters make. Boom, there's a 5,000 to 7,000 word chapter right there. So it's usually that the book idea isn't broad enough. That's where the fluff problem happens.
And that's one thing I was worried about with Dragon Energy, is like, and even as I'm writing it, like, I'm thinking about the chapters that are written, and I've already written like 18 or 20 chapters right now. That's what I'm worried about. It's like, well, how much of this is fluff, and how much of this is real, actual, like, good how-to information. And after like watching your stuff and reading your content, and I was going through Bob Bly's How to Write Simple Information for Fun and Profit, and like, this is like the blueprint. Like, all of the courses on how to create courses, like, just buy this $10 book. It's got like everything in there, and it's got way more than like that these courses have. And after like seeing your stuff and reading that book, I'm like Dragon Energy is like nowhere near like where it needs to be. And I'm like I'm like, fuck, I really need to finish this book. Like, but how am I going to like like write enough of like good stuff that, you know, I'll be satisfied with it, and I can put it out. Which is one of the reasons why I wanted to like put all the chapters out for free. It's like, at least that's almost like an incentive for me to, you know, keep writing and putting the book out.
Good. I just saw Elias posted a question. What about start from scratch? Not yet widely known, have a small or no audience, but you're an expert. I have quite a few of those clients I've ghostwritten for, and we do books. The purpose of the book, though, isn't to sell the copies of the book. The purpose of the book is to become news. Hey, I have this new book out. I have this vast body of work, this vast experience, all these successes I've created for myself, for my clients. So they productize their expertise into a book, and rather than focus on marketing the business, they focus on marketing the book, and therefore they can tap into an audience of people who would not yet be ready to hire them, would need that proof of, okay, they know what they're talking about. Now I'm ready to hire them from a book. And I've seen that from Write This, Not That, from The Best Way to Say It. And the only reason I've done those instead of books is because books take quite a bit longer to come up with. Plus, the work that I do is one where a demonstration is a superior alternative to just written information. So if I can show myself working on a piece of content, record that, People pay a lot for that. At least they pay more than for a book, because it's years of expertise that are going into the creation of that one demonstration. As I focus on marketing those, I realize I'm also creating downstream business for myself. Every time someone buys it, that's a potential ghostwriting client, where they go through the course, they say, okay, we need to do exactly what he says here, but we don't have time. We don't have someone on our team who already does this. Hey, Joshua, that's happened 3 times in the last week. Someone bought the course in the last couple of weeks and said, Joshua, we need what you're doing here in this course, but we don't have time to do it ourselves. Can we hire you now? And all of the objections to the sale have been pre-handled. Well, how do I know it's actually any good, Joshua? Well, how do I know that you can actually write? Those are the two. They're not even involved. They're not even involved. They know I can write sales copy because I sold them on buying. So that objection is handled. They just know that what I write will sell. Is it actually any good? Is the product any good? Well, they've seen me working in my demonstrations inside of The Best Way to Say It. So that's handled as well. So really, it's all about the offer. Can they afford it at that point? And I have no competition, because there's no other Best Way to Say It person who's giving a demonstration of how to implement your own methods like that. So in my case, the course works. And I know that as I'm marketing my course, in the case of a starting from scratch person, not widely known with a small audience, probably a book is going to be the best approach, because it's a low ticket offer. It's a low price product, which means you can get more customers for it, which means not only more income from the book, but also a broader customer base of people through whom you can create clients.
Would you suggest that, let's say they're starting from scratch, would you suggest that they create the book first before like starting a Twitter?
You will need some sort of an outlet or some sort of a platform to begin talking about the expertise you have from the book. So a place where you can begin building an audience and are building an audience while selling yourself at the same time is essential. Since I launched The Best Way to Say It, I've gained almost 6,000 Twitter followers when I began selling stuff. Before that, very slow growth. So by selling and by promoting, I end up getting more followers. A lot of people say, well, if I sell stuff, then I lose followers. I've seen the exact opposite happen. So the more stuff I sell, the bigger my following gets.
That's another reason for me to finish the book then, because my growth has been stagnant on Twitter for a while. But I don't tweet a lot, so that's a problem on my side. Yeah, what I feel like is if you're an expert, I would agree with Joshua in that the book is the best place to start, because there's some sort of perception about a book that positions you as an expert, and people will naturally be inclined to think of you, as somebody who's credible, even if you don't have any testimonials. Like if you're starting a business from scratch, but then why would you be an expert? But you could be an expert in something or the other that wouldn't need testimonials to start with. Like even if you don't have testimonials, if you have a book about the subject, they're going to think of you as more credible. Another question for you I had was about book titles. Now I've named my book, Dragon Energy: The Tao of Personal Branding, and that's sort of like a very like frou-frou fancy kind of sounding title. But what do you think about titles? Do they work better if they're more like copywriting type titles, or direct response type titles, where it's more like a headline, like we would write in a sales letter, as opposed to like, the subtle art of not giving a fuck?
Yeah. My experience is to lead with the value of what it is that you're offering. What is it you're offering? In my experience, if I don't know what the book is about, and by say about, I mean what I'm going to gain from the book, it's very hard to say yes to the purchase. The rule, the filter through which I look at what is a good title is this: if I've never heard of you before, and I read the title and subtitle of the book, do I say to myself, oh, that's easily worth $20 and 8 hours of my time? It's not just the $20. It's not just the purchase, because $20, everybody has $20. Okay. The reason people don't buy books is that they perceive it's not worth the time. If it's not worth the time, well, I'm never going to finish that. So I'm not going to buy it. So you need both of those things. And 8 hours is the average length it takes to read a nonfiction book. So from the title and subtitle alone, can I say, oh yeah, I need that. I need that. Is the value that's being promised to me so high that it's going to be worth my time to at least convince myself I'm going to finish that book, or at least get as far enough into the material so I can get the result that I'm going for. The reason I'm buying this thing in the first place is to get that result. And so the biggest mistake someone can make is to have a clever title, you know, like Dragon Energy. No, I'm kidding.
No, as you're explaining it, you're absolutely right, and I agree with you. It's like it's a nonfiction book, so you should lead with the promise or the value that somebody's going to get out of writing the book. So something more direct and plain English, and simpler be a much better title for a book about personal branding.
Yeah, well, what's the result of personal branding? Is it something like become the most expensive person in your niche, something like that? Oh, that's kind of cool, because I know who the most expensive person in my niche is, and if I could seize that throne without turning my business into zero, oh, you bet I would. Oh, you bet I would.
Who is the most expensive person in the ghostwriting niche?
I actually don't remember his name, but I remember his price. $300,000 for one manuscript.
Before, like, the manuscript would be the first draft?
It's for the final draft, but it's just a manuscript. No other services like reformatting for printer resizing or layout or anything like that. It's just a manuscript. And I believe that's the person who wrote one of the actor John Travolta's memoirs, if I remember it correctly. Pretty sure. But yeah, he's the most expensive. I don't remember what his name is. He lives like in the middle of nowhere in Kansas, of all places. But that's what I'm going for is pricing up there.
We are pretty close. I remember you saying that you once charged $134,000 for a project.
Yes.
Have you gone higher than that?
Not recently. Not recently.
I hope you get soon. I hope you soon break the 200,000 mark at least.
Yeah, for one book. But because I understand, I have project management in my talent stack, I can work with a lot more authors than the average ghostwriter can, doing like one book a year or a couple of books a year, or one every 6 months, for example. I can do quite a few at once and then stagger them out so they're coming out or they're being finished right as I'm starting the next person. So having kind of that cadence of what exactly does the waiting list look like? Okay, so I'm available to start you on March 1st or whatever it looks like. I can have much higher revenue than your average ghostwriter can, just because of the project management capabilities I've got.
I think that's one benefit of having a niche like you do. I'm more of a generalist, so like if we're writing different kinds of projects, like the setup is different, the process is different.
Yeah.
Even though they generally follow the same process, but the specifics of a process end up being different, right? For a sales page versus social media copy versus email marketing versus whatever. Like if you're a ghostwriter and that's your thing, like after like 10 books, you should have the process dialed in, right? So you're able to scale up that way, which is a good thing about having a niche that I wish I had a niche like that, but I'm still a generalist. So
well, I would consider myself a generalist too, because I don't just do books. Give you an example. Right. The month of January 2021. At this point, right now, I have 21 clients I'm working with directly. Am I doing 21 books right now? No, only a handful. But the others, I'm ghost copywriting a sales letter for, or I'm ghost creating their course material, or I'm ghost emailing for them, or the latest offer I've released is a ghost persuader, where I meet with their entire team, the leadership team, or whoever's responsible for the marketing and the advertising and basically what's going out to their market. And I train them. They show up with the white paper they're working on, or the pitch letter for this big client that would serve their business for 10 years. And we're reviewing it together. And so it's basically retainer services as a ghost persuader. And it's a lot of fun because I don't have to spend hours and nights and weekends writing stuff for them. I can just show up and say, here's how you fix what you're working on, and it'd be done on the spot. So I've got a few clients I do that with.
That's excellent. Yeah, and then just generally, is that what, like, are you known for specifically being a ghostwriter, and then once people work with you, then oh, I like, oh, you can do all of these other things too. Why don't you help us with this? Is that how it works?
Yes, yes, it usually is. I'll be on a call with someone who believes they need a book because we're talking about the book. I was like, we don't actually need a book. You need a course, or you really need a hook book instead. You know, like a shorter one. Or they'll say, I know I need your services, but I'm not quite sure how I can use you. Let's talk about that. It's like, okay, sure, okay, sure. So I create public perception as a ghostwriter because it's worth it to be known as being the go-to ghostwriter. But in reality, I'm kind of a bit of a generalist, you might say.
Yeah, and I think every copywriter is like that. I feel like the reason why I haven't led with a niche uh, specifically is I feel like it's sort of like a short-term thing where not you specifically. I mean, like if people are like, oh, I'm a copywriter for Facebook ads. I feel like that's a it's sort of like a short-term play that helps them, makes it easier for them to market in the short term, but tends to sort of hamper them in the long term. So I've
Yeah,
just generally stuck to, okay, most of my clients are referral anyway, and when I talk to them, we find out during the conversation, exactly like you said, what it is actually that they need. And so that is why it sort of turns out to be, generalist copy.
right, right. And everyone is sometimes a little bit different, a little bit different. Well, we've gone just past the hour mark, Nabeel. Any other questions you wanted to get in? A free consulting you wanted? I have one last question for you, unless there's anything from you.
Go ahead. I'm done. I've got all I need from you for now.
Yeah, yeah. And okay, so the question I have for you is, will you be like, or are you like Dan Kennedy or Jay Abraham, where it's revenue sharing with your clients? Maybe on top of or in lieu of a services fee.
Right. So that's a really good question. That's where I want to go. So, in addition to raising my retainers, that's generally where we want to go. Is like take a percentage of
Yes.
the sales that we do. I have offered this to clients before. They need to be the right clients though, because sometimes they don't like, some clients don't get the value of revenue sharing.
Okay.
I offered this to one client before, the e-commerce client that I was talking to you about, and I said, okay, we can work on pure revenue sharing. I'll just do the email marketing for you. You give me X% of whatever that is, and they didn't go for it. It's like
What was the percent, if I may ask?
I what did I pitch them? It was either 10% or 15% because there was no retainer. If there was a
Yeah.
retainer, I told them, okay, you can do retainer and a smaller percentage or a pure percentage, however you want to do it. But I think going forward, I would never offer a pure percentage. I would do like a big retainer and a small percentage, or a smaller retainer and a larger percentage. That's what I would offer. So anyway, they didn't go for it. It's like, what I feel is like, um, a lot of clients want to pay for performance, or say we'll work with you on a performance basis until it comes time to actually cut the check.
Until
You
you
know,
perform for them. Yeah.
exactly. Especially because with a marketer or a copywriter in the kind of things that we do, it's a lot of the work is front loaded. Almost all of the work is front loaded, and once you get it set up, then it's maintenance afterwards, right? So you do, but then the results of that work are compounding, right? So, and it's like the curves are like in opposite directions, right? So like the work is front loaded, but then the results are compounding.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, like they're doing like 10K a month from the sales leader that you wrote. That's on the low side, and they're giving you 10%, which is like $1,000. But then
Yeah.
afterwards, they're doing $100,000 a month from maybe like 6 to 12 months down the line, and now they're paying you $10,000 a month, but you've already done the work back in month one.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, yo, why am I paying this guy? He hasn't done any work for me. So that's this kind of situation that happens. And in that situation, and Jay Abraham talks about this, it's very difficult to find a client who will stick by their word on this revenue sharing agreement, which is why Jay Abraham says that you got to put in a buyout clause in the contract, where
Yes.
after X months, if they wanna stop paying you the commission checks, they have to, buy you out, and it would be like the previous month's commission, like averaged out or whatever, like an average commission times some sort of multiple. But I agree with you. That's where I want to go is revenue sharing. If I could, like, I believe in the work that I do and my ability to get results. So if I could work on pure performance, I would be. It's just about finding that right client who actually has the balls to, actually pay what you're owed at the end of the day when you do get them results.
Right. And so it's probably just it's easier in most situations to keep it a professional services fee.
It's the least complicated because like they understand it. Like if they don't understand it, it's very difficult to charge them a percentage. And yes, it becomes more difficult to raise your rates retainer wise because like okay, some people might be okay with $3,000 a month, but once your rates start getting up to like $10,000 a month, which is where I want to go with the services that we're offering, like it becomes very difficult to find the type of client that will pay that. And it's the same either way you go, whether it's revenue sharing or whether it's like a flat services fee, you have to find the right kind of client who'll be willing to pay the rates that you want.
Exactly. Well, that's my last question for you, Nabeel. Anything else before we bid farewell to our folks here?
Yeah, before we leave, tell the people where they can find you, your website, your Twitter, like, and how they can work with you if they need a book ghostwritten.
Yeah. I think everyone probably watches this probably has seen us on Twitter already. So I'm very simply at Joshua Lisec. I have quite a bit of action going on over on YouTube. Just simply search Joshua Lisec on YouTube. I think I have 164 book writing, publishing, marketing, persuasion trainings over there. And then everyone who says, "Hey, I think I want to talk to this cat about my book, my idea," I say, direct message me on Twitter. We'll set something up. How about you? Yeah. Obviously, dropkickcopy.com, Nabeel, and here we are on Twitter, Periscope, elsewhere.
Right. Yeah, I think everybody knows us on Twitter. So I'm at Nabeel Aziz DXB on Twitter. Dropkickcopy.com is the website, which will be getting an update in terms of the copy that's on the website soon, and the socials for the business are at Dropkick everywhere. All right. So. Thanks, man. This was great. I loved, especially hearing you talk about how you capture tone and voice, and I'm so glad. I breathed a sigh of relief. It's like, oh, okay, I'm doing it right. All right. Excellent. So that was awesome. Yeah, that was awesome.
Sure thing, Nabeel. I appreciate you hosting on Restream today. Thanks, man.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Joshua. Have a great day.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.